Journal of Adius Vigilis, 5th of Hearthfire, 4th Era, year 201. Well, it's no VIP suite, but it's at least as good as a cell in the Castle Bruma dungeon. I've got 4 walls to myself, a floor that's mostly dry, a hay pile that was only slightly soiled by who or whatever was here before me, and the best part? A small porthole-like window in the center of the ceiling. Most days I can get a good 3 hours of sun if I feel like following the beam. Plus, they haven't started the uncoiling process yet, so my stay at the Blue River Prison has likely rivaled an extended luxury visit at the Restful Watchman back home. When I look back at how I ended up here, I can't help but think of the boy, though it's not fair to blame him. In fact, he may well have been the best thing to happen to Bruma in a very long time. He reminded us all what it is to fight for what is right, and I doubt many of us will forget that anytime soon. A few weeks ago, I received a rare letter from my sister in the Imperial City. She was having, quote, trouble with her only son, Blodius. He had developed this protective personality, getting into fights, sticking up for some Khajiit and Orcish schoolmates that were being bullied. She said she appreciates the boy's moral compass, but she was spending more time in the headmaster's office lately than he was spending in the classroom. These fights had become a distraction from both his own studies and those of his classmates. He had also been talking fancifully of joining the city guard, and maybe even the Legion, to, quote, protect those who could not protect themselves. His words, not hers. She already had decided he was to become a wealthy merchant like his father, and focusing on school right now was the best way to make that happen. So she requested to have me take him on as an apprentice of sorts up here in icy Bruma. Her hope was that once Blodius got a taste of the monotony and politics of real guard duty, he would become discouraged and be able to refocus on his studies. Ha! Thinking back on that scheme now, I can't help but laugh at how foolish she was. I think I had come to know the boy better in 2 weeks than she had in the full 18 years of his life. Anyway, I didn't want to take on the boy. I was overly stretched as it was, dealing with a band of cutthroats called the Cutters. I also had the Count breathing down my neck about some stolen artifacts, and was trying to find the time to address numerous other complaints. To make matters worse, I hadn't seen my own family in months, and felt a bit guilty at the thought of spending my precious little time with my nephew instead of my own children. But she's blood, so I couldn't refuse my sister. When the, quote, boy arrived, I was shocked. He was much larger and more grown than I had expected. He was a boy only to his mother, but everyone else saw a fully grown man. The only adult quality he hadn't developed yet was the fatigue to forget about justice and moral fortitude, and instead focus on the next bottle of ale and precious few hours of sleep. That made me very weary very quickly, and more than a bit annoyed at first. But slowly, the kid's youthful righteousness became tolerable, and eventually, it even started catching on, and not just with me, but others about town as well. The Count's missing artifacts I mentioned? He found them. He even helped me completely wipe out the Cutters, who had been nothing short of a pox on County Bruma for longer than I care to remember. But his pet project ended up being the one that taught us all a valuable lesson. Dartocto, the Khajiit hunter and pelt trader, had been accused of theft, and was now a pariah in the city. There was no evidence, just the testimony of one shopkeeper. Dartocto was beside himself, and seemed genuinely hurt by the allegation, and the persecution it garnered. Many seemed to assert that the accusation was true, simply because of his race. Blodius convinced me to look closer at the evidence, of which there was none, and to drop the charges. I regret to say that had Blodius not taken an interest in the matter, I may have sided with the shopkeeper simply to not have to deal with the backlash I'd have gotten from the grumbling elitist merchants. Blodius and Dartocto have become inseparable after that, and they made names for themselves as bounty hunters and helpful sellswords. The Khajiit was able to clear his name and turn the people's opinions of him. It was an incredible change of fortune for the beloved Khajiit that inspired many in the city, myself included. We were on a roll. Organized crime was all but obliterated, people were happy and energetic again, There was a feeling of hope and positivity in the air, the likes of which I have never experienced before. So when the reports of Talos worshippers in the wilderness fell upon my ear, it was only natural to try to do the right thing. Officially, the only action I could take was to bring them into custody and report them to the Thalmor. However, the kid had not yet been sworn in as a guard and only acted unofficially. I suggested that he talk to the pilgrims and try to get them to tone it down a bit. At first he resisted, saying that what the Thalmor is doing is wrong, and they should be able to worship who or whatever they believed in. But I was able to convince him that this was the only way these people would not get hurt. He eventually agreed and was able to convince the worshippers to keep it down a bit. Well, of course the local Thalmor agents caught wind of this little conversation. They confronted me just outside of Castle Bruma, where everyone could get a good look. They accused me of aiding and abetting Talos worshippers, and escorted me to my new lovely abode here in the Blue River prison. And the teleportation spell came not a second too soon, as Blodius's mace passed harmlessly through the air where the agent's head had been a second earlier. That move was brash, and I should fear for the kid, but I don't. You see, those fanciful dreams of joining the Legion and protecting those that could not protect themselves? Those were not fanciful dreams. That was destiny. Anyone who has come to know him has also come to know this. So no, I don't fear for Blodius at all. In fact, I almost fear for the Thalmor. Hello everybody, and welcome to my Character Crusade Unbound Season 3 Let's Play Introduction, featuring this handsome bastard, Blodius Vigilis, the Blue Sentry. Alright, so welcome to Season 3. If you're not familiar with the Character Crusade Unbound project, it's basically a roleplay and writing workshop that's done in sort of a community social fashion. Just so you know what to expect, if you have watched either my Alucel Let's Play, which was Character Crusade Unbound Season 2, or my Aralas Let's Play, which is still ongoing, you'll know what to expect here. It's going to be basically the same thing. It's a character concept Let's Play with some narrative, except this time the folks over at Character Crusade actually provide us with some prompts and some tools that we can use to help define our story a little bit and help to sort of help us sort of choose our path based on what we know of the character, their traits, and their sort of proclivities towards certain things. And in fact, if this sounds fun to you, I would highly encourage you to check the description below for links to the Character Crusade website, the Character Crusade Discord channel, and the Couch Warrior TV YouTube channel, which does simply provide the best Skyrim content on YouTube or anywhere else. So check that out. Oh, and also, these Unbound seasons, they last a few months. Everybody kind of plays along together with their own character, telling their own story, but sort of following the same prompts. And everybody and their characters are very different, so everybody ends up with sort of a different story and different modes of telling it. But it's all in Skyrim. And every couple weeks there is a live recording of a podcast in which they talk about all of our endeavors and the things that we submit to them with what we've done. So that's a lot of fun. I highly encourage you to check it out. But for now, let's go ahead and introduce this gentleman. This is Blodius Vigilis, which loosely translates in Latin to the Blue Sentry. And I chose that name partly because the BLO in the name Blodius corresponds with the primary skill that I will be exploring with this character concept, which is block. as you can see, the big old shield on his back there. I've been going through alphabetically the skill trees to explore the Ordinator perk tree overhaul a little more in detail with each one of these character concepts. Aralas, which is my current Bosmer Archer Let's Play, is based off of archery, hence the AR in his name. Blodius is primarily a block specialist. And that's what we will be exploring. And to kind of correspond with that, I have decided to make this character sort of the pure, lawful good sort of archetype of character, sort of like a paladin, but less emphasis on the holy magic, sort of like a knight that goes around doing good, your classic do-gooder hero character. And an extension of his block primary skill is the fact that he is extremely protective of innocent people and people who cannot protect themselves. So there's that. A few more things. With the first episode of the Character Crusade Unbound Season 3 podcast, the guys have kind of set up a template for how this season will run, and seasons after. So first of all, there are two traits for this character. One that is chosen by the guys in the podcast. This time they kind of randomly chose a few and let us vote on them. That character trait that they have chosen, or that we have chosen collectively, is stubborn. So, Blodius Vigilis here is a real stubborn bastard. And that can manifest in many different ways. I'm really not sure how that's going to manifest, to be honest with you. But it's something that I'm going to keep in mind for decisions and choice points throughout the story. Is stubborn. And the secondary trait was up to us. I randomly chose a few, 3 from a list actually. And I chose from that small list of 3 one that kind of I could see making sense and kind of providing some story and character development fuel in the future. And that second trait is that he is authoritative. And that hasn't really manifested yet, but the fact that he is protective and stubborn kind of leads to him kind of being an authoritative figure later on to try to keep everybody in line. We'll see where that goes. I'm honestly not sure where that goes yet. The next thing are sort of an overarching story. And there's actually 2 of these that we're going to use for this Let's Play. Again, one of them was chosen during the podcast, sort of as a conglomeration between the guys and a vote held by the people who are watching. The primary story is chosen by us from a big long list of sort of predefined stories, or at least story templates. The secondary was the one that was chosen during the podcast. The primary story that I've chosen is a holy person is charged with infidelity and exiled. And we'll kind of see how this plays into it, probably in the first episode after this introduction. They have sort of left these story arcs very open to interpretation. We can get very metaphoric with some of the definitions of these words, which you'll kind of see later on. But the secondary story arc is something that's a little tougher to me, and I'm not really sure I'm going to work this into the story yet, but hopefully the solution will present itself eventually. And that secondary story is a pregnant woman goes into labor only to find that the baby has completely disappeared from her bulbous tummy. This is the one that everybody has to try to incorporate into their own individual story, and I'm really interested to see how the other members of the Character Crusade community handle this one. Like I said, these are all very much open to interpretation. Um, I just don't know how I'm going to fit this in yet. And finally, on top of all this, kind of in the vein of the character development and plot template that everybody is kind of going to be running off of, is the overarching theme for the story, and that theme is all that I do is in the service of my hidden agenda. And that hidden agenda won't stay hidden for very much longer. In fact, I'll probably uncover that in the next episode, or the first proper episode of this playthrough. So I think that takes care of pretty much everything that was established during the first podcast for the Unbound Season 3 project. What else? Oh yeah, so we can go over the circles of character conflict, which will play a part in. I don't know how major. We're going to have to play it by ear, but it will play a part of varying importance, but always a part in the choices that we make, in the paths that we take throughout this Let's Play. So the circles of character conflict, there are 3 circles that start on the character and then kind of percolate outwards from there. The first circle is a personal conflict. Blodius's personal conflict is well, sort of, his conflict kind of has to do with the fact that he is very unconflicted internally. He sees the world in terms of black and white. It's either a good thing or a bad thing what he's doing, and he will always firmly choose what he thinks is the good thing. The conflict comes in when he is faced with choices that are varying shades of gray, and there's not a clear right or wrong answer or path apparent to him. That's really going to affect him deeply. He may have to make choices. For example, in the Civil War, does he side with the Imperial Legion and kind of, at least on the surface, aid the Thalmor in what they're trying to do in Skyrim, or does he join the Stormcloaks and help lead this rebellion against the Imperial Legion, who are seen to aid the Thalmor, sort of at the expense of perhaps humanity's best chance against the Thalmor and Elven oppression. So we're gonna see that play a role in his decision making, I think. The next concentric circle outward from his personal conflict is interpersonal conflict, and this goes back to him being very black and white in his morality. He will be at odds with characters that sort of operate in shades of gray. In moral gray areas, sort of like the honorable thief or the dishonorable city official, that kind of thing. Things are always black or white to him, and in these shades of gray, this authoritative personality may start to come out, and he'll be more aggressive about laying down his personal view of how things should be. And the third one is the societal conflict. That is the outermost circle of character conflict. And I think that will become more clear in the next episode. But as you can imagine, somebody who is very stubborn and very morally black or white and always choosing what he thinks is right, is probably going to be very at odds with the Thalmor. And anybody he sees as unlawful or immoral will put him at odds with that society. So things like the Thieves Guild, or anything like that, the Dark Brotherhood, he's going to see those as evil and need to be stamped out, as well as the Thalmor and other things that pop up like that. So there's that, and as you can imagine, being at odds with the Thalmor, even publicly, as Blodius is very brash, he will obviously get him into trouble with society. And with the law, maybe. Okay, so I think that takes care of all the character traits, all the story type stuff that had been established in the first podcast. After that, we kind of go over what I've done in-game to kind of facilitate this stuff. So as I said, he's going to be a block specialist. And his whole character concept, personality, the way he fights is all going to be centered on blocking. And because of that, I have increased via the uncapper the block skill to 200. Or not increased it, but uncapped it to 200. So if we look at the skills, our block tree here is already at 98, so as you can tell, I've been doing a lot of blocking. That is going to only be capped at 200, so things that are sort of affected by block skill will become stronger than they would in the vanilla game, but also I will be able to continue leveling up and taking perks with this skill until it gets to 200. So it'll allow our character concept, at least gameplay-wise, to continue to improve and progress well beyond the block skill of 100. And that being said, our gameplay style is going to heavily center around timed blocking, which is a big thing in both Ordinator and Wildcat, which I'm running both. And things like bashing and power bashing, which with this cast aside, whenever an enemy NPC is going to try to attack us with a power attack, I have quick reflexes, so time will slow down. Where is quick reflexes? Ah, there it is. Time will slow down, and I can hit them with a power bash. And it says it knocks an attacker to the ground, but it actually it knocks them into the air, and it's quite a dramatic effect, and it's really awesome. And it's kind of become the centerpiece of this playthrough and this playstyle for me. So yeah, let's see. I am already at block 98, and I've almost got this entire skill tree filled up, which kind of leads me into the next portion of setting up this playthrough and kind of explaining what I have going on here going forward. As you may or may not be able to tell from your surroundings, or from the surroundings here, we are in Bruma. I have been playing through a lot of the Beyond Skyrim Bruma quests for a while. As you can tell, he's not level 1, he is level 24. This has allowed me to kind of play through a significant portion of Blodius's backstory, which has been awesome. I highly recommend doing that if you can kind of find a way to facilitate that. The way I was able to facilitate that was installing the Beyond Skyrim Bruma mod, of course, but there is also an extension mod by another author, which acts as sort of an extension for the Live Another Life alternate start mod, and that was a Bruma start. that it kind of adds to the list of things that you can choose from when you activate the Shrine of Mara in the beginning dungeon for Live Another Life. That sort of allowed me to establish this character a little bit and strengthen him up and get him to be sort of a seasoned warrior before I take him to Skyrim and kind of expose him to the main quest. So there is that. Let's see. Also, as far as mods, this is the most modded game I have ever run, especially for a Let's Play. It has things that I wanted to add before, such as Lean Wolf's better shaped weapons. As you can see, let's see, do I have any sword? I only have the Bruma sword here. But yeah, like your regular vanilla swords, like your iron sword, steel sword, your elven swords and stuff, they're going to be much thinner and sort of more realistically shaped. In my Arlas and Alducel playthroughs, it really bugged me how fat those paddle swords were, those vanilla swords. Ugh, they were gross. I'm also running honed metal, which I don't know if it works on the Bruma blacksmith. I think it does. It allows you to be able to temper and craft weapons and armor through the blacksmith, so not directly with your own character, but sort of put in special orders for things with different crafters throughout the village. So we'll talk to Holgerd here.
Takes a lot of time and effort to master, but the results speak for
Oh, I guess it's not activated for Bruma NPCs. But yeah, once we get to Skyrim, we'll be able to talk to the smith or a local enchanter and have them hone or craft our weapons and armor for us, or even have the enchanters add enchantments to them as well. This is a great way of facilitating role-playing a character who is not good at nor has any interest in crafting skills such as smithing and enchanting, to still be able to improve their weapons just by paying for them and waiting for the crafter to do the work, instead of having to do everything yourself to get the equipment that you really want. What else? I'm also running the Great Cities of Skyrim Minor Holds edition. So sort of the smaller, more forgotten cities will be more fleshed out and bigger and more impressive. Oh, and another really big one is I am running more interesting NPCs, or just interesting NPCs, or 3D NPC as it's called for short. So we have a lot more fully dialogued NPCs that we can interact with. Blodius, being an Imperial, is a bit more of a social entity than is Aralas or Alucel. So we'll find ourselves engaging in dialogue with people much more often and sort of using persuasion and the speech skill tree a bit more. And I'm also running convenient horses, which kind of befits a person who cares about their status and the status that is portrayed by what they wear and what they're riding in this case. Blodius does have a horse. Her name is Marion, which is a play on the word mare, which describes every horse in this game, as they are all female, and that's canon. I've used Jackson's renamer to rename her, much as Bjorn in Aralas has kind of taken on his own identity as a result of being named by Jackson's renamer. I'm hoping so too will Marion. And I've gotten all the patches to get interesting NPCs, convenient horses, and AFT to all work flawlessly together, at least as far as I've seen. I haven't had any issues with it after dozens of hours of playtesting with this character. So I think those are all the big ones as far as mods that at least are different or added from previous playthroughs that I've recorded Let's Plays for. What else? Am I missing something? I probably am missing something. Oh yeah, I've also used the uncapper as I have before to overcap certain skills which Blodius is not interested in or not talented in, or some combination of both. So we'll just run down them sort of in order here. Alchemy is capped at 25. He is no alchemist. Alteration also capped at 25. Archery capped at 25. He has no interest in ranged combat really. Block is capped at 200 as we've gone over. Conjuration block capped at 25. Destruction capped at 25. Enchanting capped at 25. Heavy armor capped at 100. That will be a big part of his playstyle is heavy armor. The rallying standard, which increases the armor rating of both the player character and any followers, will be a big part of this character's playstyle. Illusion I've capped at 100. I do plan on using illusion, but more so for things like rally and inspire type spells that that sort of inspire his followers to be stronger, more brave, and to fight more fiercely for things that they believe in. This was sort of a carryover from the Knight class in Oblivion. I always thought that having illusion magic as sort of like an inspirational type commander character was an interesting idea, and I really want to explore that further. I probably won't be taking many perks in the illusion tree. That'll probably be sort of a secondary or tertiary thing to focus on after sort of the block and heavy armor skill trees. Moving on, lockpicking is capped at 25. Light armor is capped at 25. Oh yeah, as far as lockpicking, I am still using a lock overhaul, which allows me to bash open locked chests and locked doors and gates and things based on my skill in one-handed. It's not a huge deal, but it does allow Blodius to get into places and containers that he wouldn't normally be able to otherwise. He doesn't tend to associate with the thief types, so just using his mace or whatever weapon he has currently equipped to bash open a lock is more his style. One-handed is capped at 100. That is going to be his main means of offense, I suppose. His bashing is actually usually more effective in terms of damage and status effects, such as like stagger and knockdowns and things like that. But he does need a one-handed weapon to sort of deliver more standard damage, I suppose. Smithing is capped at 25. Sneak is capped at 25. Speech is capped at 100. Since we're doing Live Another Life, Blodius is Dragonborn, and I do foresee the main quest being a major part of this Let's Play. It's sort of something I have not taken on as a primary factor in any of my Let's Plays before. So it might be nice just to see how this character, Crusade Unbound Season 3 template, and the sort of motivations and different character traits affect how that main storyline plays out. And speech will be a big part of that, because with Ordinator, it allows you to your shouts to be more effective. I'm also running Thunderchild, which is an Ision's shout overhaul, so that will make shouts more effective. New, more powerful shouts will be added to his repertoire as he sort of unlocks them, I suppose. And finally, two-handed is capped at 25. He's not going to be doing any of that. So, based on how I've capped the skills, I'm sort of forcing myself to focus on certain skill trees, which in turn helps me focus on developing a very specific playstyle for this character concept, which is sort of a key component of all of my character concepts. And this one happens to be a whole lot of fun. I actually really liked blocking and shields in particular in the vanilla game. It was one of my favorite skills. And I think it's even more fun with Ordinator and Wildcat installed. So I'm really looking forward to playing. I think that's just about it. I think that's a pretty good intro, a pretty good start. We will start the Let's Play in earnest in the next episode. It'll kind of kickstart Blodius's adventure. So I'm excited to get started on that, and excited to share with you some actual gameplay. It should be a lot of fun. All right, so until next time, hope everybody takes care. Bye.